I always like to have a nice opening picture for my recordings. I've realized the black picture looks too dull and yeah, it just looks awful. Um, so what I want to do initially is just spend a short bit of time finishing off sustainability. And then once we've finished with sustainability, we'll go on to learning unit 3, which is strategic direction, vision, mission, strategic intent, and those kinds of things. Okay, guys, while I've got this fresh in my mind and I'm being recorded, has anyone had a chance to start looking at those tests that I've been sharing on the group? Have to absolutely, guys, work on that. This is a tough exam. Chrissy, that's all I expect. Briefly is wonderful. Wonderful. You need to get a sense of what to expect. Now, obviously, we will get an exam brief. Unfortunately, we're not given the questions. Oh gosh, browse that's perfect. Guys, get a sense of what they're asking. We will do some sort of exam prep, and I am the whatever lead lecturer or something. And so I'll do it with you guys, but we'll also do it with the bigger group and we'll see what can come out of that. Right. So now that I've had my nice picture there for a while and I can look so impressive in terms of visual appeal, I'm going to start. And while this is happening, my wife is feeding me drugs. Hold on a second. Okay. Right, guys. So sustainability, we spent quite a bit of time in the assignment prep as well in Learning Unit 2, looking at the idea of the quadruple bottom line, and the quadruple bottom line now being people, planet, profit, and purpose obviously focusing specifically around governance. The one thing I am going to remind everyone of is that if you get a question in this area, anything to do with sustainability, and you don't know what the answer is, then you write people, planet, profit, and purpose. And you talk about governance, you talk about social commitments, you talk about commitments to your shareholders, and you talk about sorting out issues in terms of the natural environment, becoming carbon negative, becoming carbon neutral initially. So if you she's a great wife, boy. Feeds me drugs. This feeds me lots of drugs. It's wonderful. Um, and some legal, obviously. I mean, I'm kidding. I know. I actually have bronchitis, guys, so I'm being pumped full of drugs at the moment. Right. So let's have a glance at the idea of now looking at your organization within the context of the bigger picture. I will come back to that pretty picture that I had there a second ago. So one of the things we know is that strategies need to look outwards. So when we create our strategies, we generally create strategies that capitalize on strengths and opportunities and counteract threats and weaknesses. Yeah. Well, in terms of F1, I think the reality is what the world and what climate and what society has done for F1 is they forced them to become more sustainable. They forced them to look at becoming more efficient. And those tests that happen on the track are passed over to cars. I think the more we pressurize F1 in terms of becoming more efficient, the better it will be. I just don't want to watch Formula E because, my gosh, I play Sky Electric if I want to play Sky Electric. So, guys, in terms of, and I suppose you guys are too young to know what a scale electric is. So, guys, when we look at strategy, so we have to always make sure that in terms of strategy, and I'm going to go in reverse order, we consider the realities around our competitors, because every move we make, they will make another move. We also need to remember, in terms of sustainability, as much as we want to create a positive image in terms of the environment, the truth is your competitors are doing the same thing. And it's all about obviously doing good, but it's also about image. It's also about attracting new customers. It's also about trying to be the shining light in the actual industry. Substitutes, here we look at alternatives, and when we look at alternatives to petrol-driven vehicles, yeah, in my mind, I believe the future is not electric. I really believe that the future is hydrogen. Toyota agrees with me. One of my students, and his research is available from last year's honors on the portal. You just need to dig for it. He looked at the choice between electric and hydrogen, and he made the prediction last year that hydrogen would be the one that everyone goes for, and it's a very, very clear move in terms of this kind of transition to hydrogen. So you get this internal combustion engine. It sounds like a normal engine. It's got a nice tone, and I believe that's the future. Electric vehicles, batteries, and all of that have to get rid of. Guys, and then new entrants to the market. Yeah, give me a quick example of some new car manufacturers that have entered the market in the last couple of years. And generally they come from one specific country. Yeah, Haval and the strides that Haval have made. Cherry's been around for a while, but my gosh, the strides, yeah, it is China. The strides that Cherry has made in terms of the Tigos 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think it is. But the worrying thing for me always is that when you read between the lines, it's great until it comes to handling, until it comes to fuel consumption, petrol consumption. But we've got to realize the Chinese will catch up and become even better. Does anyone drive a Chinese brand as a matter of interest? Come on, you can admit it. We're not going to point and laugh at you, I promise. Not a single Chinese brand here. I think, yeah, no, guys. Yeah, no, absolutely. Hydrogen will also be the way, Gaston, that we powered aeroplanes in the future. It will also be the way that we power trucks. We'll get away from diesel. And a motor. Okay, yeah, I've seen them around, and yeah, I see Arman's parents-in-law drive a Haval. Guys, can I just say, I think Gaston is driving a Cherry. I just have that feeling. Gaston's the kind of personality that will drive. I'm being oh, nonsense, boy. I'm being rude, Gaston. It's just deliberate. Yeah, Ford is a good choice, but guys, and then obviously buyers, and those are customers, and it's all about image in terms of our customers. Guys, I don't know why Gaston suffers so much. We've not even met and I bully the poor oak. Guys, and then suppliers. And remember, you can only build what you get supplied. And if you want to build a company that is green and that is concerned about the environment and concerned about social issues and concerned about governance, you have to make sure that every player in your supply chain adhere to those specific guidelines as well. Oh, if anyone is reading down the side, unfortunately, they won't realize. Guys, I'm supposed to be a professional lecturer. Unfortunately, people won't read the feed down the side. Yeah, I'm moving along, guys. Right. And I think the reality is, in terms of Porter's Five Forces, those different players have to also realize that being part of our atmosphere, our stratosphere, of our operations, you also need to be more efficient. So in the past, when we looked at reporting, etc., I think it was always about profits. And I did say to you guys that the modern definition of strategic success and long-term sustainable strategic success is wealth creation for stakeholders. Wealth creation for stakeholders. And it's important to remember that as the new definition, because it moves away from what companies in the past used to believe is the only reason for their existence, and that's to make a profit. So the simple truth is that wealth creation is the modern definition, and it's not just wealth creation, it is wealth creation for each of those stakeholders. And I'll discuss that a bit further when we look at strategic intent as well. So we also need to make sure then that we have some kind of strategy that looks after social issues. Now remember, people issues in terms of those four P's, and then also look after planet issues. And as I said, and if people that just arrived, if you don't know what to write in terms of this learning unit, just write about the four P's. I promise you, I will find a way of giving you marks for writing about the four P's. I promise you that. Okay, very unprofessional. I'm having a cup of tea. Guys, and then just if we look at some of the things that you have to be able to master to be part of this bigger system, to be good in terms of your customers, to have suppliers that are good. There are a couple of things that we need to remember. And the first one are those social ecological thresholds. I've said this before, and I don't like sounding like as somebody that's paranoid, but I really believe we're on a cusp of destruction. I think we keep polluting, we keep contributing to greenhouse gases. And yes, there are organizations that are carbon negative. But when you look at China, when you look at some of the developing nations, the way the planet is ruined because of economic intent. I really believe that we're counting towards the end of this planet's history, and all we need is just another meteor to hit us like it hit when the dinosaurs were down. In about a million years' time, people start digging us up as well. Gaston and his four dogs. I don't know what story they'll tell about that. Guys, so you have to realize that the earth is collapsing. You have to remember that we use 2.5 planets worth of resources to support ourselves. We're going to run out of planet, and that's our reality. And that's why we start looking at going elsewhere. Mars is insane. Guys, and then obviously there's certain things that we have to worry about: natural environment and communities around us. And we can see in terms of that, part of that product life cycle is also being concerned about the realities of the planet and the communities there. What happens with an electric car when its batteries run out? What happens with a Tesla? Guys, someone please share the link to this. Somebody's asking on the group. Please, can someone say share urgently? Guys, what happens to a Tesla when the batteries run out? Yo, Amanda, I thought I was bad. It's a massive disposal issue. The batteries essentially need to be disposed somewhere. And I know you guys have watched this movie. I hope some of you at least watched it. But you know, if you want to see the future, watch what goes on in movies. And the essence of Wally is how the human race destroyed the planet. And what do we do with the batteries? Where do we put the batteries? Do we shoot them into the sky? There are other issues in terms of the product life cycle as well. What happens when we do updates? What part of those updates will render parts previously used unnecessary? And what do we do with those parts? That's very cool, Gaston. Revolve, I'm going to stick that. That is very cool, actually. Yeah, and we'll see more of that, actually. We'll see more of that. I just want to stick it in here for myself to see later. Oh, Revolve batteries. Very, very cool, actually. Right. Guys, and then the next one is about transparency. How would you define the term transparency? It's one of my favorite things that companies and governments and politicians talk about is, we're transparent. We're transparent. We're an open book. What does transparency actually mean? How would you define transparency? Yeah, show everything. It's the ability of a person external to the organization to look at the organization and understand the organization's operations and workings. Let me just say that again. Transparency is the ability of a person outside an organization to look internally and understand the realities of that company and understand its operations, understand the way it actually works. And the truth is, when we use that definition of transparency, are there any transparent organizations? Guys, I just want to quickly share this. Somebody stuck. I don't know how many times I've actually shared this link. Let me just share it again quickly. I hold on. I can't do two things at once. Right. Sorry about that. Yeah, show everything, guys. And the next one is also showing us people the ability to track our performance, and in terms of that performance, where we are going. And it's essential that not only the shareholders do it. I mean, your customers need to know, your employees need to know. They need to understand that there is a future for this particular organization. Right. And then, guys, I think it is also about making sure that when we make strategies, that we consider the impact on the natural environment, that we consider the issues around communities, and that we consider governance. I see that some organizations have now started to bring a philosopher into their strategic planning sessions. So, a philosophy major, because philosophers look at ethics and what is right and what is wrong. And they generally are able to give us really good feedback on our strategies, on the kind of format our strategies will take. Because greater good cannot always be your strategy. And then just in terms of, sorry, I want to quickly, I'll go through and I'll go back to the nice colored picture. Sorry about that. Right, guys. So in terms of what we do on a day-to-day basis, who has seen this term before? Kaizen. What does the term Kaizen mean? It's a term that's used across a number of industries, but much used in the industry that I did my masters and PhDs in. Go for it, Armand. You don't have to put up your hand, boy. Just
If I'm not mistaken, it's doing more with less or something like that. If it's or managing your
the aim is
projects.
ultimately more with less. Yeah, yeah. It's about change, and the aim is about becoming more efficient. Remember, guys, Kaizen is this continuous, ongoing improvement. In the auto industry, on every production line, it doesn't matter what you manufacture on that line. And remember, I work mostly in the components industry when I did my studies. There's a waste bucket at the end of each of the production lines. And every day they measure the waste. You cannot believe they'll measure a piece of wire that is a half a centimeter long. But every one of those teams on those lines are responsible for a certain number of kaizens. And the simple truth is that kaizen is an improvement suggestion. It is a continuous improvement suggestion. And every team, every month, has to make a number of kaizens. And those kaizens become part of the team's measurement. And it's a very, very clever way of getting people to improve, to constantly contribute to making the organization better. Boy, I'm not from Toyota. Boy, I definitely am not. I've driven a Volkswagen for the last 30 years, but okay. One way of looking at Kaizen is the Deming plan, the plan, do, check, act cycle. So here you consciously think about what can I do to improve. You make it happen, and then once you've decided how you're going to do it and you've made it happen, you go back in that cycle and you check again because it's continuous improvement. I'm surprised that you guys don't use Kaizens, because I've seen Kaizens used in a number of places, including banks at some point. Guys. And then just in terms of the new way of reporting, it's integrated reporting, it's wealth creation for all stakeholders. And if you look at all stakeholders, one additional stakeholder that needs to be added to the traditional stakeholder model will be the natural environment. The natural environment is a key stakeholder for any organization. Yes, we have customers, and yes, we have suppliers, and yes, we have employees, and yes, we have shareholders, and yes, we have communities. But alongside those, the natural environment is another one of those key elements where we have to have the consideration of it as a stakeholder. Guys, in terms of integrated reporting, so the first one is to start with where we are looking to be in the future. So, what is our vision? Have we updated our mission statement? What are our long term objectives? And I don't want to go into that too much. But one of the key things in terms of reporting is not to wallow in where we were or to be too impressed about where we were. It is about looking to the future. The second one is to make sure that you have some sort of dashboard available to you where you can connect and make the links in terms of improvements and knock-on effects and where money is spent and where we've made savings and where we've performed, what areas are we good at. And normally those areas will always be finance and customer, internal business process, or they will also be learning and growth. Guys. And then the future orientation, just long-term expectations, and then looking at our stakeholders. How well have we created wealth for our stakeholders? It is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It is a wonderful measure in terms of what an organization's success depends on, guys. And then just other issues. This has to do with payment of directors, etc., payment of executive managers, and then to see, have we actually achieved anything? Have we moved forward? Have we met certain deadlines? Have we achieved certain targets? And then to look into the future and ask the question, what next? What else should we do? What should we be concerned about? And the truth is, the natural environment will always be there, guys. And then lastly, this is what we report in terms of an integrated setup. Oh, goodness me. So obviously, plant, machinery, and equipment for the accountants amongst you. Intellectual capital, that would be the kind of patents, etc., that we've registered. Human capital, that would be your people component. That would be the collective brain power, the collective talent in your organization. This is how well do we get on with people in communities? How well do we get on with government? How well do we get on with local government? How well do we get on with the local leaders? And then natural capital, I think, yeah, renewable sources. So the move to, for example, solar panels, and then non-renewable sources. And we know that one key non-renewable source that we're running out of is petrol. Not only is petrol bad for the planet, it is also a very scarce resource. My apologies for that.